Well, there's not much I can do about it. Time is a critical part of what's it? Sorry. Time is a critical part of whatever. We're starting late, but I'm not going to extend the time. So we're going to have to use what we have. I want to walk you through the slides again. Tell you what we're here for and why we're here. Are we on the Zoom? Are we recording now? Good, great. So we don't have to worry about anybody else. First and foremost, let's thank all of you who came last week. Your name should already have been in the registry. We were expecting a lot more people. We had a lot more registrations online. I still got registrations this morning, but we'll keep going. First and foremost, this is the pre-conference for the 2021 Southwest Regional E-commerce Summit and Expo. We do this every year except last year because of COVID-19. And we now realize that there's so much to cramp into those 2 days, it used to be 3 days, that people never really made an effective change in their approach to businesses. One of our speakers this year is the founder of Max NG. He's been our speaker for the last 3 years. And Dr. Degbola has been our speaker for the last 3 years. What they deliver in 30 minutes or 45 minutes cannot be, you can't ask questions, you can go into depth, you can't really help people. So we decided this year that if we did a pre-conference and we prepared people for the conference, they can leave the conference with a lot more results and with a greater expectation. And also, when we gather a lot of people together for the conference, including exhibitors who are bringing specific products and services to the conference, then they'll be able to take advantage of that. And then finally, more importantly, we need to start demonstrating and showing results to our investors and to our partners and to us so that we can continue this or stop it. So that's why we are doing this time around. So thank you so much for coming. On August 6th, we had Mr. Emmanuel Silva, who walked us through SWOT, what SWOT is. We had a very, very practical session. We had some down-to-earth questions. We asked people to work out their own SWOT, especially as regards their organizations or from the perspective of their clients. We also spent time looking through each one of them. And then we realized that one of the biggest challenges we face in trying to get an idea of what our customers, how our customers see us, was a lack of data. And we made a lot of emphasis by asking you to start gathering data, start getting data on your business. It may look stupid to you, it may look silly to other people, but it's the only way you can interpret your circumstances. I remember talking, I don't know who I was talking to a few days ago, who was reminding me of whether there's data in the Bible. And he began to remind me that Jesus counted the men and women, he arranged them. And then afterwards, there were 5 baskets left over. That's data, so you can understand. And if you go through Numbers, you will see a tremendous amount of data. And when you get even to the book of Revelation, you'll see a tremendous amount of data. So I don't think this is a strange thing. And I've never seen a book that keeps more data. When Ezra was living, I shouldn't do this. When Ezra was living, he counted the people who were going and the tribes they came from. Data is fundamental in whatever we do. We spent a lot of time on that. All right, today, I'm going to be talking about strategy. We realize that business strategy is vital for any company seeking to grow its business in a strategic manner. In other words, what we're saying is everybody needs to have a strategy post-COVID. We need to go back and evaluate whether you're a single, whether you're an individual who's running your own business or you're a professional or a career person, you need to have a strategy. For instance, let me put this down on you. We've had recently fully activated our Google Workspace. It costs between, you can choose a Google Workspace between $6 and $18 a month. But 99% of my staff don't know how to use it. And yet every information they need is there. We can tell you the bookings, we can tell you the fuel level, we can tell you we can tell you all that, but they don't know how to use it. And what ends up happening is that you end up using physical energy to get what you could have gotten digitally. When people do a booking, you should be able to tell whether somebody has already made an inquiry without having to talk to anybody, because we have already put it on the map that this person has booked this hall for this period. We'll also tell you whether he has paid for it or not. These are simple things that are available to us, but technology has been handicapped by ignorance. So anyway, you need to have a new strategy going forward. One way you cut down on your trouble is to have strategy. So what we want to do is set out plans and actions and goals on how business can compete in a particular market, especially with what is happening around us, with products or numbers of products or services. Business is not the same as it was yesterday. So what will it be tomorrow? So our business strategy must be flexible, adaptable, and anchored up-to-date technology. So what we're going to do today is talk about how effectively you can re-strategize. And again, one of the things we do is try to gather our network together. So one of the things I do is call together my friends, my colleagues, and people who have been in the industry longer than I have been or have worked in areas I haven't worked at. Today, we're going to have the privilege of having Mr. Demola Adewusi. If I try to read his CV, we will be here till tomorrow. Demola happens to be one of those people who, by purely divine coincidence, happens to be at a strategic place at a particular time. And that's very important because those are the critical times when you have to understand how things work. He's worked for Airtel, he's worked when it was Econet, he's worked with Philips Consulting, he's a consultant right now also with many governments, and so far, so good. Demola has shown himself to be an incredibly gifted human resource person. And so I'm stalling. If you notice, I'm really taking my time by stalling to call him up because I don't want to waste what we have this morning, hoping that one or two more people will come in. So, but what we're going to be talking today is why we need to re-strategize and how or why we must re-strategize. The truth about it is, let me put it this way, and hopefully everybody will get what I'm saying. Okay. Yeah, okay. That's Mr. Lalika was giving me an idea. We'll get a feedback from you about what you learned last week, and that will help give us a little time for those who are coming a bit late. One of the things you're going to discover is this, and I'm being very frank. I remember there was a recession a few years ago, and a lot of people became broke. And you asked them, why were you broke? And they said it was the recession. The truth about it is that they were broke before the recession. And so what happens is the recession actually just shows you how badly you were broke. The same thing is happening with COVID. COVID really showed us how we just didn't have strategies in place. We didn't even understand the business we were doing. And so when trouble comes, I mean, when things happen to us, it's not because of the circumstances, because really, if you think about it, we're supposed to be able to survive any circumstance. I remember a few weeks ago, we had a birthday remembrance for Dr. Tunde Adegbola, who turned 66. And his uncle, who happened to be a brilliant professor, was telling us about the concept of what if. He says, a man that will succeed is a man who's able to say, what if on my way to Lagos, I have a flat tire? What if on my way to Lagos, my engine knocks? What if, and has been able to put in place ideas or concepts that will help him get out of that situation. And that thing is almost lacking in our country and in our culture. It's something we have to think about. What if I die young? What happens to my children? What if I die old? What happens to me? So those are questions you have to answer. You'll be surprised that the solutions are not as complex as we think they are. Some solutions cover both. If you have life insurance, for instance, that takes care of your children if you die early. If you die old with life insurance, I'm told that there's a particular age where they will return the money to you. I don't know if that's true or not, but but they'll return the money back to you if you save. So I'm just saying there's simple solutions out there, but until you ask yourself that question, what if, you're not going to go anywhere. So let me ask our architect who's back this morning to give us a feedback about what it has been like for him for the last 1 week. I'm just stalling for time. Believe me, I really don't do this. Everybody that knows me know that if I'm starting the program at 10, I'm starting at 10. I don't have any emotions attached to it. I just didn't want to speak to the air. Anyway, so can we have a mic for him? The architect in front here. Demola, you use this mic. As long as you don't have COVID.
Good morning. Hello? Okay. Good morning, everybody.
Yeah, can you just come so that they can capture you on camera? Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. Everybody is my name. Actually, I was here last week and we had a very good session. It was very explosive. So, from what I learned last week, is what that is the strength, the weakness, the opportunity, and the threat in our business or our field. I discovered that whatever we are doing.
Sam, can you get Uza for me?
Yes, whatever business. Okay, let me say, in which area, whether you are in a business or a professional or you're in the hospital, we need to give our field an approach that is different from the conventional way. Everybody, what I'm trying to say is that I'm an architect. I see myself as a professional. I don't see that field, that industry as a field whereby you have to give it the approach of a business because you have competitors. So even if you work in the hospital, or maybe you're a doctor, you have your clinic, you need to give that clinic another approach of not just I'm a doctor, then I've employed some nurses, then they bring in patients. There must be an approach of a business. So I learned that this what gave me an insight to understand that every field, you need to give an analysis of this SWOT, whereby you see that field or whatever you are doing as a business, and you are able to analyze the business and understand the challenges in that area. If you don't do that, we have a lot of challenges. In the process, I discovered that there was this emphasis when we talk about how would I call it, the weakness, because in every business there's this issue of cash flow. Probably cash flow. Many people believe that cash flow and capital is the same thing. It's not the same thing. It's just that they are similar. Cash flow is steady income of cash. Regular income. Today now, if I open my shop, I open my business, at least I'm guaranteed of making 200 naira. No matter what, whether there is traffic, there is no NEPA, there is whatever public holiday, you are guaranteed of 200 naira, no matter what. Like someone doing this, transport business, as long as they bring out their micro, definitely they know. By the time they park at the bus stop, 1 or 2 people will come in, and definitely they will make money. If you are sure of that, do that. Regular cash flow. On that, at the end of the month, I'm making 10,000 naira. That 10,000 naira is sure. You can plan on that 10,000. Then the next thing is having a goal of increasing that cash flow. Okay, I'm making 10,000 naira. How do I increase 10,000 naira to 15,000 naira? How do I increase that 15 naira to 20,000 naira? Then you can now sit down and do your analysis. That's your weakness. But if you don't do that, you always complain, I don't have capital, and I go and borrow money. Then you go and borrow money, you put in more money into that business, then you have the same similar problem of cash flow. You make 200 naira today, the next 3 days, you're not making any money. Then you use generator, you do everything. So you're having that issue, and it concerns that, and it's a very, very, very important aspect of any business. But there must be cash flow. Money must come in regularly so that you can plan on how to expand, how to pay employees. So when I got home, I called my partner, because I have a partner, and I discussed the issue with my partner. I said, okay, we are going to do something on it. We are going to work on it, and we are planning on how work on the cash so that we are we able to surmount that challenge of issue of being standing on the issue of cash flow. I think that's the major thing I've been able to achieve in the last 1 week.
That's good.
Thank
That's
you.
Good. That's very, very good. That's very good. I don't know, Madam, were you here last week? You're very late. You want to say anything? You want to say something? Okay, we'll come to you. Can I get the right?
I also was available here last week, and I also learned a lot. Actually, I'm
You
a
didn't
student.
say a word last week.
I said something, Pastor. I said something. And what I learned, I'll start from where it stopped. If you actually use your SWOT well, and you do not have data, according to how you put it won't actually work, because if you actually have your cash flow regularly every time, and you do not have data, you'll be spending your money wrongly, because you won't actually know what to do with the money. You might be doing the thing that you are doing with the money that you think that is right, but it's not right. But if you have your data, it will actually prove you right where you have to spend your money to. That's what I want to say.
Even though I was late last week, I came around, I was there around 1 or something. But there was much, they were just rounding up the SWOT analysis when I entered, and then much was said about data. And that data aspect of it really caught my attention, that it is actually true. We need to evaluate and analyze whatsoever we are doing. I'm a professional, I'm a researcher, but at the same time, I'm into some businesses. And because as a professional, I have a regular source of income, I seem to take the business for granted, and but I found out that with what was said last week, I needed to begin to put data into the business, which is very, very important. I realized data will enable you to have the right focus, know the specific customers that are relevant, and concentrate, and know exactly which of the products people prefer through analysis of this data. So, but like we said, that the data could be cumbersome, particularly if you are somebody that doesn't really like working with numbers. But at the same time, we learned that you can give that job to someone else. You can have a book to keep, and then others can analyze it for you. Thank you.
Very much. Thank you very, very much. Did you watch the video? You want to say anything? Oh, great. People are going to come late, and that's the problem. Sometimes I want to ask myself a question. Yes. Yeah, at the junction there. And this place. Yeah. I'm so sorry to hear that. We've been trying to get the government to turn some roads into one way. Yeah. Yeah, we've actually lost a few customers because of that. And so we've actually sent proposals to the government. Yeah. We've written several proposals to the government to turn some roads into one way to avoid the bottleneck, because you have 4 lanes emptying into 2. You have 4 lanes coming from here emptying into 2. And so that's been a major problem. The government wants contracts so that they can make money. We come up with ideas that require little or no money. So we'll keep pushing. Sorry about that. I think maybe we should be trying to get policemen stationed there when we have an event here and just pay them to keep the traffic flowing. Yeah, I think we should look at that. Towards the summit, yeah, okay. But without wasting any more time, I'm really proud to invite Mr. Adeosi. Demola, you can stay here or you can stay there. That, okay. But I'm taking my iPad.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everyone. Okay, so you guys had a very lovely time last week with Emmanuel Silva, and it was fun watching the video and seeing everyone work at your own business, not just listen to someone speak about business in a very vague and academic way, but also have someone detail your own business for you. And I can assure you that today would also be hands-on, because I would stop at intervals and ask you questions. When you invite people to this kind of event, maybe they think it's going to be some academic thing, but the way this has been designed is to give you what we refer to as a cheat sheet. Do you understand? Before the big conference, when we speak at the big conference, I'm going to get an hour. And when I get an hour, I'm just going to be headline motivated. I'm just going to go to the headline issues, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'll move away. But in a class like this, it can be a bit more granular. I can sit down with everybody and we can look at your business and understand what is happening to us and what is likely to happen. So sometimes it is a blessing that you have a very manageable class, which allows you to be able to pay attention to each person's business. So for me, that's a blessing I enjoy. So I'm happy to be here. We've been thinking about this for a while. And the reason why we've been thinking about it and will continue to think about it is because COVID has come and COVID has not gone. And that means we will continue to tweak our businesses for as long as COVID is here. I hope you know. My organization is running a training program at Jogger currently, and we spoke to people this morning about their COVID experience. And I shared with them the fact that I've been to an isolation center before. And because of that, I wanted everyone to take COVID serious. And part of what I shared with them that made everybody laugh was that while I was at the isolation center, immediately I got better and I could breathe. I started thinking of my business. And I can tell you that right from the isolation center, I wrote things down about my business that had changed. And this was exactly a year ago, because like on this same date last year, I was in an isolation center. Yes. And I was writing stuff about what I wanted to change about my business, what I knew had changed, and what steps I needed to take to make sure that I don't go hungry. I can give value to my customers. I can have profit. I can have growth. I can have sustainability. I can have resilience. And I can talk to myself and say I have business continuity, even when something worse than COVID happens, which is why I'm here. How many of you have worked on your SWOT analysis outside here? When you left here last week, did you examine it again? Anybody? Okay. So it is still work in progress. I like that because I will be sharing with you some narratives, and then I'll be asking you to use another tool today, meaning that you'll be able to look at your business from different points of view. And when you look at your business from very different points of view, some of the things you have neglected before will suddenly just pop out, and you realize that these things have become a bit more important than the weight you gave to them earlier on. Now, let me give you an example. If you're an architect now in Nigeria and you're not catering to the diaspora market, you are not doing anything. And how do you cater to that market? Ready-made plans available online as teasers. Let me give you an example. A lot of people, the property market in Nigeria, it's been estimated that about 35% of it is built by people who are not in Nigeria, who are not going to live in those houses. They work very hard abroad. They won't sit with you to tell you, I want my bedroom like this. I want this one. I want that one. They're going to send you an email. I saw one of your plans online, and I want to do something like that. But I'm not sure how this can go, how I can get that plan. And then you may have to start the process of taking a brief online. How easy is it for you as an architect? Did you write something about it before? Aha. I wasn't here last week, but I can tell you that I'll be telling you a lot of things that were said last week.
From the weakness last week, I wrote number one, cash flow. The inability to adapt to the digital age. What I'm trying to say, inability to adapt to this digital age as an architect, that's quite very, very difficult because this issue of social media, that is the reality. There are so many things going on in this digital age. But we are coming from the analog, and I wrote it, that's the weakness, because I discovered that the adaptability is very, very slow.
Very low, okay. Yeah. I'm going to share with you something about, being digital natives and being digital migrants somewhere in here. Now, whether you're on Facebook or online, I want you to go to, Maramani. Maramani is just a small company. They do, they're architects. They just put plans online, especially on Facebook. And they render them in 3D. And you see people all over the world. I think they're in Southern Africa. People all over the world asking for a Maramani design. There's also some guy in India who does exactly the same thing. He even gives you an Oculus view of the house when it is built. So you can enter the house. Yes, visually, digitally, without having built the house. You look at your kitchen, You can send you a link and you can give yourself a virtual reality Google, and you just go through the house that you have not built. Now, what then happens is that house starts to call your name. And you're telling yourself, why am I building it? So if you're in Ibadan or Lagos and you're seeing our local builders struggling with some design that looks like it is out of these worlds, don't blame them. It's either Maramani or some other designer in South Africa who pulls the plug on some Nigerian architect and got a Nigerian in London to buy a design that was meant for Soweto. So the builders here are struggling with it. Sometimes I see a house in Ibadan and I know that this house was not designed for this environment, but somebody bought it, So, but that's not my concern, My concern is how fast can our businesses, especially small and medium scale businesses, use technology tools to become adept at this change? Okay, so I'm asking us to rethink and hoping that when we rethink, we can reboot. Okay, the first thing is I don't have to emphasize the fact that it is over. The final whistle has blown on business as usual, and there is no business on earth that COVID has not dealt with, that COVID has not shown, like we say in Nigeria, has not shown shaggy. Now, I work in a few industries. I basically have a consulting service that helps organizations to perform better. So I do a lot of performance audits. I do a lot of job evaluations. We also do a lot of change management. Currently, we're doing a customer service orientation program for one of the electricity distribution companies in Nigeria. We just finished a change orientation program for one of Nigeria's largest card transaction processing agents. We organize a lot of conferences and training programs. Now, you could say, if you wanted to pack everything together, that I create events, be they learning events, consulting events. And immediately COVID came and they told us we couldn't pack people in the same room beyond the particular number. It hit me. It also meant that organizations conveniently forgot about training and channeled their budgets into other things. But it also meant there was an opportunity to train people remotely. There was also an opportunity to do things remotely. Let me give you an example. How many of us are now paying to learn how to make soaps, how to make creams, how to make a lot of household equipment, household utilities from home? People are now asking you to subscribe to WhatsApp groups, teaching you. They're sending you videos. They're creating online content that you can access only by subscription. Even Forex people who used to be all over the radio and who used to hold large classes are now holding individual classes where you can learn at your own rate and you can learn at your own style. Now, you realize now that instead of the one-size-fits-all class, you can then access material, and from that material, you can relate with a coach or a business mentor who can then help you to clarify what they're talking about. So it depends on how you look at it. If you look at it like, that's hit my business and that's the end of the business, fine. That's the end of your business. But if you look at the opportunities inherent in what is going on, you're also going to realize that a lot of banks now are seeing it as an opportunity to downsize. Let me give you an e-branch. Let me give you an ATM gallery, and then expand the back end, the customer service end, the contact center. Even if I don't extend that, what I could do is use an IVR. Press 1 to do anything, press 2 to do another thing, press 3 to do another thing. And I make the IVR tree so robust that you can be there 30 minutes and doing everything you want to do. There's also another thing. I could make WhatsApp a business account and then link it to an IVR. It talks to you. When you send 8 to a WhatsApp number, it tells you the products and services. When you send 9 to the same WhatsApp number, it tells you activation codes for anything you want to buy. Now, all of this is happening because we're trying to find a balance between human contact during an epidemic or a pandemic and still being able to make money using technology. How does that sound? Now, have you noticed that bakers don't display on their windows again? Where do they display now? Statuses, WhatsApp status, Facebook pages, Instagram pages. So what actually became a limiting factor has actually become something that provides exposure. if I had a shop right in front of here before, yeah, and I'll talk about it when I talk about advertising, and I put my cakes out here, it means for you to see my cakes, you needed to drive past news streams. But then we're talking about traffic now. From Jogo Center to this place took me 40 minutes. So people are dodging now and going through Iagoku if you're going towards Bodija. So now I can use Instagram, I can use Facebook, I can use Twitter, I can use to achieve the same thing. So business as usual, it is clear, and I'm sure Silva made that clear last week, that it is what? It's like a football match, you know, when the final whistle is blown. Business as usual is over. Let me tell you this as a joke. Even people with clandestine businesses have suddenly realized that digital is the way to go. Have you experienced herbalists on Facebook? Yes. Yes. Herbalists, occultists, all of that, you know, everything they used to hide to market has now changed. People are in the open now saying that, you know, if you need money, you need quick money, a solution to your money problems, talk to Baba Ologun from somewhere. And, you know, these pictures are even telling you that he needs your money more than he can bless you. But hello, he's in the digital age. So business as usual, it's over. We all know that. Okay, so I'm going to start from, you want to say something? We're still laughing about the fact that, I mean, it's just the way it is. Some herbalist who is in some village suddenly realizes that his clientele are coming from the city, and the referral system is no longer working. So what does he do? Well, ask his son, who's create a Facebook page for me and put my number. It is a wide net. Now, what becomes the hook for people is their problem. If you have a money problem and the guy says, I'm a specialist in helping people to make money, even when he's in rags, your problem will speak to you and you call him. And then you decide whether you want to pay him to come to the town, to the city, to consult for you. Or have you noticed that even businesses that ordinarily were not allowed to advertise are finding a way to advertise now? Businesses like what? Architects. Businesses like law firms. Even hospitals. Even pharmacies. Have you noticed that pharmacies do not advertise straightforward on social media platforms, but they have websites to provide drug advisory services? You can search for a drug and they'll tell you these are the side effects, these are the indications, these are the contraindications, but they make sure that their website is done such that what? You see their name and you see the fact that they can provide other services to you. All right, so how has your market changed? In fact, some of us have moved from one market to another without knowing. Do you know? The movement has been so smooth, so fluid, that some of us have moved. You will notice now that a lot of fashion houses have moved away from traditional, come to my shop, come get measured. They become online stores. Now, how many of you realize that Gap, the retail store, they closed all their physical stores? They closed everything. And they said, we'll only hold stock in our warehouses, you know. Once you pick it online, we'll send it to you. There is no point asking you guys to come to our shop. You know, Gap in the UK, especially for little kids, you know, there's an experience. Now they've closed their entire physical shops. and a lot more are going to go. So if your business depends on physical contact, currently, just physical contact alone, there's a problem. You have to create new products and service lines that can be accessed via the web. How has your industry changed? Virtually every industry has been impacted by COVID. When you ask people to stay at home, remember during the lockdown, what was your number one issue? Was it food, boredom, or entertainment? During the COVID lockdown, you realize that even cable TV was heavily impacted. There was nothing happening. You could sit on the TV, on the couch in your house and watch TV, and all you would listen to was COVID. And they suddenly realized that something was wrong. So guess what they did? They turned the table around and then asked us to be the ones creating content for them. So you see CNN tell somebody, Mr. X in New York, what's your COVID experience like? So the guy will stay on his window and say, I'm here, although I don't have COVID, I'm in my house. My street is very, very deserted. Let me show you my street. The guy turns the camera of his phone, shows the street. There are only about a few people working. Ordinarily, this street will be filled with people and they will be having fun. There used to be a deli shop there where they sold, beef and all of that. It's no longer there. Now, what was that person doing now? The only thing that person will not do is to say, John McIntosh, reporting for CNN News. So that person now became the reporter for CNN. And they got hundreds and hundreds of things like that that they used as content that people freely gave to them. And if you notice, even in Nigeria, COVID migrated a lot of people from traditional media to online media. Normally, just look at your life in Nigeria without DSTV. And then when DSTV became boring, everybody became an Instagram or some web addict. You just went somewhere for your own fix. It could have been Twitter, it could have been, or YouTube. Yeah, YouTube particularly grew at that point. And Netflix as well also grew. So every industry has changed. And I need you to be aware of how your own industry has changed. Even the academic industry has changed. We used to have a lot of seminars. I'm a PhD candidate, and I remember then that, seminars are one of those things that we were even marked for attending seminars. You had to write your name, to show that you were learning, and you had to attend physical seminars. Now, it is online. It has moved. It has moved. So what has remained the same? I would like to learn from you, what do you think has remained the same in your business? Because for me, everything in my business has changed. The entire dynamics of my business has changed. Now, some of those things that used to make money in my business don't even make money now. And the reason they don't make money is because they have to do with human contact. I have to bring people together, a lot of people together to do it. So what is the essence of your business that has not changed? I would like to learn. And you can write it down for me, please. What has not changed? And we can debate it. Maybe somewhere in there is something that has changed, but you really haven't noticed that it has changed. All right. So in looking at changes now that have happened to business, will it surprise you to find out that some industries grew? Do you know? During COVID, some businesses actually, they did well. Sir? Zoom. Amazon. Jumia, Konga, DoorDash in some places. They did. Google Meet, they didn't talk about it. Even Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Teams is the most robust of every, online meeting application you have. But guess what? Nobody talked about it. Why? It was very easy and convenient for the business class to say, I have a meeting in Chicago. It was a thing of, of pride, and carry my bag and fly on the company's money and go to Chicago and arrive and say, hi, my name is this. I represent this company. Being able to fly around the country, anywhere in the world, was a perk of being an executive. That was even put in your employment letter. They will say you will spend approximately 30% of your time traveling if you are the incumbent on this role. So you look at yourself and like, oh, that's nice. At least once a month, I get to fly business class. And now, the point is, you don't have to go to Chicago. You can sit in Nigeria and, well, although some African leaders still flew out for virtual conferences, but what I'm saying is, the business class did not embrace it because it would have taken away one of their privileges, yes. But now that that privilege is even endangered, because one of the easiest places where you can, contact COVID is on the airplane, because the air is recycled. And because it is recycled, pathogens, bacteria, viruses, even flying itself is not that easy, I just remember while I was at the isolation center, one of the jokes that kept coming to my head was the fact that in 2019, I flew from Dubai to Houston, and that's a 17-hour flight. I flew from Dubai to Houston with some guy who was coughing, beside me. He was coughing, had a serious cough for the entire 17 hours. And I panicked. So I used an antibiotic for upper respiratory tract infection, even though I didn't have it. And then I rubbed my entire face with aboniki, thinking even if the pathogen fell on my cheek, the mentor will kill it. And then I started looking at it when I was there, and I said to myself, what if it were this year? Would I sit on that same seat in the plane for 18 hours? By the way, the flight was fully booked. I would have just stayed somewhere like I was in a downfall and like, let me just take standing for a while, okay? So there are businesses that encourage, experience growth. And if you look at each of those businesses that experience growth, it wasn't as if they just built the functionality or the resilience during the COVID period. They built it before. People were not using it, or people were not dependent on it. Like Amazon now, people used Amazon, but they still had the opportunity of going to stores and everywhere. Their lifestyle wasn't, constrained. But immediately people had to sit at home. They became very dependent on Amazon for almost everything. Okay? There were a lot of caterers who made money in Lagos just by cooking from home and shipping to people. Okay? There were industries that did not experience growth, but they were deepened. Deepened how? What you needed to know, what you needed to do, to learn about before you could start that business became a bit more complex. They didn't die, they didn't grow, but they became deeper. You needed to find out more about things before you could then venture into that business. Let me give you an example. Rentals is one of them. You then need to know a lot more now about infection control. You know, before, if you rented utensils and things out to people, you just washed it with soap and you kept it somewhere. Now, that's not enough. You have to properly sterilize and sanitize. So in some of our industries, the knowledge threshold has deepened. And guess what? Everybody is finding out now. That restaurant, how many people are usually inside that restaurant? You ask yourself that question. Bolt is now saying you guys should be more than 3. Before, we used to have a lot of people in some Bolt, you know, Bolt or Uber or any, you know, of these ride-sharing applications. Okay? There are industries that have shifted, meaning where they were before, they're no longer there. You're wondering how that is, right? Okay, I'll give you an example. Guys who used to just be logistics people. You know, guys who just buy a bike and say, call us, and we'll pick up whatever you want and all of that. Now, they have become critical partners to people who produce any consumer. In fact, a lot of organizations are now investing in their own bike people. It has come to a point now where in most places abroad now, you don't even want to know the man who delivered your pizza. It's called what? Contactless delivery. You know, before, part of the key result area of delivering pizza was being able to greet the person and say thank you and collect money and give them change. Now we've got all of that out. Order it online, pay your exact amount, we'll deliver it to your door. That person brings out his phone, goes to an app, says pizza delivered. You get a ring on your phone that says your pizza is at your doorstep. You get out, you take your pizza. You see, it's shifted now. How do you measure the effectiveness of your pizza guy now when he doesn't even get to see the customer? It is now app-based. When he leaves your place, he says, I am leaving. When he gets to the house, he says, I've delivered it. So you can time it. And then your app will take the work from there and send to someone. Your pizza is delivered. Can you see it has shifted? Now, there is a rebirth of some organizations. Zoom wasn't doing well before, like we said. Teams wasn't this robust, but it is now an item. And some businesses have died. Some businesses have what? Have died. In fact, I was reading something that was telling me that a lot of the barbering salons in Bronx, the United States, have not come up. A lot of them are owing, rent, and they've gone into liquidation. They folded up. And the reason is because the salons were one of the super spreaders of COVID-19 at the height of COVID-19, because making your hair is a very invasive, somewhere, it's personal. And then all of you be able to, invade each other's private space. I can know whether you've eaten garlic. I can know whether you had a curry. And because of that, I can give you COVID-19. So there are places like that I've folded up, and spas are struggling. saunas and spas are struggling. They're almost dead. How many of you in this room have been to a spa in 1 year? Would you like to go to a spa now? Still no. So, all right. So we'll be looking at something. We'll be looking at 4 things. We'll be looking at your strategy, which needs to have changed since you talked about SWOT last week. I'll be looking at your people. I'll be looking at your processes. And I'll be looking at your technology. Okay, are we ready? Now, your business strategy talks about what? And I deliberately did not put a question mark on all of them. It talks about what, why, where, when. And then there's a follow-up question to achieve what. There is what, where, when, where, and then to achieve what. So, I'd like to know what kind of business some of us here do. I know that he's an architect, but I'd like to ask you, what kind of architect? What would you like? Just talk to me. Have you defined the kind of architect you want to be?
Of the reasons why
You're here.
Yeah, to understand, to really know what kind of, to create a niche. Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, next person. What do you do? What kind of business do you do? You're a student for now. Oh, you're the best person here as far as I'm concerned, because you can soak all of this in and then decide on what part of this fits you and what path you are going to follow. Yes.
Yeah, currently I'm looking at real estate. I discovered that in real estate in Nigeria, there's a market. Some people want some kind of neighborhood. I think in this part of the world, this generation, there's this gap of a very nice neighborhood. And I discovered that our own generation, there's this gap because of lack of planning, physical planning in the country. A lot of our generation are complaining of the very good, nice, comfortable neighborhood whereby you have access to some facility.
Amenities and facilities.
Yes. So it's a gap, and I think there's a demand for it. It's just that maybe there is no framework. It's not only
even
about,
with what you are saying, that's still an industry.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at currently. That's what I'm looking at currently on how to approach that industry.
Even what you're talking about still has too many babies. There are some people doing prefab now. There are some people doing land banking. There are some people doing rent to own. There are some people doing, they're mixing agriculture with real estate. You want to live on a farm? Buy property with us and you get to farm. You buy a property, you get 2 acres with it that you can farm with. You know, too many mixes depending on, and all of them are online. Okay, so madam, what would you like to do?
At the moment, I have never worked in a business.
Okay.
But I'm transitioning now, and I very much would like to. And I have 3 areas that I'm very interested in. One is food, and I'm looking at how that's been affected by COVID. And the other one is leisure, and the other one is growing things, maybe vegetables.
Vegetables, okay. I forgot to say that one of the industries that almost got killed was leisure and hospitality, and definitely aviation. Aviation took a big hammering. Madam, would you like to share with us? And tourism, it just went. Okay. So, your business strategy talks to me about your what, but also talks to me about to achieve what. If you're an architect and you want to do real estate, you need to define for me, what is your market? Are you doing mass market? Or are you doing upscale for high net worth individuals? Middle class, I don't think they exist in Nigeria. I mean, they've been decimated. Don't kid yourself. Those of us who call ourselves middle class in Nigeria, we're deceiving ourselves. We are either poor, and we're mostly poor anyway, and I'll define you as poor if you have a generator in your house. Because the UN definition of poor actually takes, I mean, about 99.9% of Nigeria. You've got a generator, you are poor now. You don't have health insurance, you're poor. Right? Poverty is not in terms of finances. It's in terms of access even to basic amenities. It's in front of your house. Is it tarred? So we can say that all Nigerians are poor. For what? For infrastructure. I mean, yeah, my problem is, let us say that you come up with some unit, housing unit, that you can sell for 10 million naira. How many Nigerians can afford it? No. That's why even as an architect, you need to sit down and ask yourself, what's your strategy? There are people who don't touch projects below 500 million. There are people who do projects not below 20 million. The reason why I'm asking us to think of, and this is why, for what reason, what is our why is important. The what for what is what I want to refer to it as. Okay, I am an architect. I want to build houses for whom, where, and when, to what. You want to create neighborhoods. That's estate. When you create an estate in, let me give you an example now. If you create an estate in Idianyure, you know where Idianyure is? After Crane, Noliole local government. How many people who you call these middle class people will be able to buy land in that estate and want to live there? The reason the property market is very funny. Let me give you an example. Oh, Gobi is not here today. One of my friends was here last week. Now, depending on the niche, you can decide to be low end and go to the outskirts of town and buy an acre at 1 million. An acre will give you 6 plots, depending on, you then take that acre of 6 plots and come to the town and sell to people who cannot afford to have homes in the town and sell it to them at 500, 600,000. You, who is developing that place, you have collected 3 million naira on a plot, on an acre that you bought for 1 million naira. Let's assume you paid to the government another 300, 400 million. On 1.4 million, you have made 3 million. Now, most people who do that think they have made profit, right? So they become chiefs. They have chieftaincy titles, marry second wives, and, generally have fun. The problem is that estate is just a slum waiting to happen because you have not laid asphalt roads. You have not done the NEPA work. You have not done the drainage works. There is no sewage plant. There is no water. There is nothing. By the time you put people there, you realize that with no perimeter fencing and all of that, armed robbers will start to deal with them. They are still going to park away from that place and come back to the city as what? Tenants. Yes. Yes. That is where we think we have the infrastructure. Yes, sir. Yes.
Hotels and tourist centers,
Yes, sir.
nightclubs. So you discover that it's very, very difficult for you to migrate far away and you really want to enjoy the activities in the city.
Okay.
So how do we marry that? Probably this generation wants to enjoy the activities in the city.
Okay.
Probably in the
We have to break it
yes,
down.
yes.
Now, hold on. Even it's not just one category. And I'll show you something. Are coming to the city. The self-employed youth are getting out of the city. Now, they're getting out of the city. Let me give you an example. I was in Osogbo all through last week. And anybody from Osogbo can tell you that that city has benefited from the influx of young, upwardly mobile people. Now, you can be judgmental and say some of them are, Yahoo boys, fraudsters, but Osogbo has benefited from a lot of people who don't want to live in the city. They want to live in a place that is laid back. And Osogbo is pretty laid back. These guys, if you do, even more than Ibadan, it's just there, Osogbo and Ilorin are places where the taxis will still reverse to come pick you up. I mean, it's a taxi. And the guy is going, remembers, oh, that's another 100 naira. Comes back and like, and Now, the guys who are in Osogbo who work, they're like, well, since there's this job that is a civil service town, they're okay. They don't mind owning a house in Ikeru, Oboko, Ede, even some of them, Odeomu, Eduabon, Ife. Some people live in Ilesha and work in Osogbo. It's just 30 minutes every day to drive. It's on the road. There are a lot of young guys. I went to see a lot of them Wednesday in Ilobu. That Ilobu road. They just built very small houses. But you see them dainty looking, fine looking houses. 2-bedroom flats, 3 bedrooms along Ilobu axis. They don't want to live in the city. If you meet them, they're actually graduates who are into agriculture. They want to go to their farms and come back to their homes. Now, there is a smart architect who has all of them on a WhatsApp page, who is telling them, I built the mother's house, I built this, I built that. Now, guess what the guy is doing? He's even helping them to build farmhouses. So when he builds you your 2-bedroom, he tells you, don't build a big house. You're a young chap. You're probably planning that when you get married, your wife is going to the US. So build yourself a 2-bedroom, and then let me build you another 2-bedroom on your farm. So you can live on your farm and live here. I saw at least 4 of those farmhouses looking very. And the guy I went to actually painted it green. You could look at the horizon and not know that there's a house there. Now, that architect now, who's building farmhouses and little houses, has a niche already. That is his strategy. I don't want to wait for government contract of 110 million, but I want to be doing 4 houses every 3 months from these guys. Now, if he gets a bit of financing now, you see that kind of guy go get a farmland somewhere and then break it down into 2-acre farms and say, I'm going to put a 2-bedroom house here for you with a lot of space upstairs where you can look at your farm and say to myself, I escaped Lagos. I survived Lagos. I'm now in Ilobu. And his business is going to continue to grow. If he does that experiment in Osogbo, and that experiment is going on well in Osogbo, you'll be surprised they will come to Okeogun here, where there's a lot of land too, and that guy will continue. That's why our why is critical. The what is good. Now, I didn't want to say why because it's usually too wide. And some of you will say, you are forcing us to think. But what do you want to do is how I like to lead it. What do you do? I'm an architect. To who? Where? When? And then, so what? And then what? Let me speak Nigerian English. And then what? The reason is because unless we think like that, somewhere in the maze, we'll start to behave like a rat in a drum. We'll spend a lot. If you're an architect now who is not a big architect, but when you see requests for proposals or tenders, you're always putting your foot. You have never done a 100 million naira project before, and you don't see projects that are for 120 billion, 130 billion. You throw your hat in it, you are fooling yourself. But if you start and say to myself, okay, what I want to specialize in is build houses that are not more than 3 million naira for people. Now, there are some that people are doing now, it will interest you. They take styrofoam and they put wiring inside of it, instead of blocks. You know, insulating styrofoam, yes. They take it. Then inside of it, they put reinforcement, not a lot of, and then they pour concrete inside it, and they wire it together. It's common now. No. Do you know what people are doing with farmhouses now? We're using PET bottles with sand inside it. Very lovely. It is even bulletproof. I've seen it in some farm in saying, very cheap, sand in bottles. You heat up the mouth of the bottle so that the sand cannot get away. Then you plaster it. That's all. So we need people to be able to fashion. And the architect who is doing that, who is championing it, is saying, I am doing this because I want to use up all the plastic in the environment so that the environment is cleaner. So boss that is champion. I'm possible to think about I'm forcing us to think about our why, because my analysis is going to be a bit longer than, and we could do the analysis and still not find out why. Yes. No, I agree with money. Aha. I agree with money. Unfortunately, the money is not the destination. Let me give you an example. Let me give you I mean, I could buy you a gun if you want money. I'll make money faster. But the point is, okay, what will now happen if I bought you a gun and you made 100 million naira? What would you do next? Aha. Now, immediately you buy a car, your 100 million has diminished. You will still come back and ask me for a gun, a bigger gun. So what happens is we must tie down our strategy to a course. It gives us staying power. It allows you to see the bigger picture. If I wanted to run an architectural firm now, one of the things I'll be looking at is low-cost housing, which is a difficult thing. Affordable housing. Now, there is a technology out there where we are compressing PET bottles now into blocks. You've not seen it. PET bottles, PET material, PET. Plastic bottle for Coca-Cola, that is PET. We're compressing it and using it as blocks for homes. It's reverse extrusion. And it's happening. Now, the problem is you need, yes, man. Please sit down, man. Thank you very much.
I wanted to share with my colleagues here my experience. when I started coming to this church, the very second time I came here, there was, actually, was it the second? I think it was even the first time I came here. Somebody gave the sermon that day, and they said that we should, one of the things they wrote was that we should read a book, start with why. And my sister, a couple of days before, had said I should read a book, start with why. And I thought she meant why the letter.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So, and I thought, because I've been talking to her that I'm going to work for myself and what should I do? And I was like, I was thinking, why would I go and read a book? I'm so, my head, I don't know what to do. I have to figure out what it is I need to do. And then I told her that when I came to church, the man also said we should read that book, start with why. And she told me, don't do anything until you read the book.
Why.
I was like, what is she disturbing my life for, making me take some detour? I'm busy. I need to figure out what this business is. But I read the book. And you were saying to our colleague here about having a cause. It's very important. I think everybody should please make a note of it, that book that they told us in church to read. It is the best. It will totally, if you're focused on making money, when you read that book, you will see that if you don't read it, you're not even going to make any money, let me tell you. Read that book.
All right, thank you. Start with why is important. And the reason that abuse happens is because you don't start with why. If you ask yourself, why am I dressing up today? It will influence what you're wearing, whether in terms of functionality, in terms of suitability, in terms of comfortability. And then if you want to add the aesthetics to it, God help you. Okay? So for me, the reason why the strategy is important for me is because if you have a strategy, even companies that had a strategy, COVID buffeted the strategy. Not to talk about somebody who doesn't have a strategy. Some of the vision statements that I see now are obsolete. To be the something, people compete with instead of competing against themselves to become better, they compete against other companies to be the #1 technology company in Nigeria by the year 2025. No, smart companies are now saying to make sure that 6 billion people on earth use our application. They don't care who else is. If 6 billion people on earth can use your application out of 7.9, you're okay. So the point is you focus on the right thing, which is to make life easy for 6.9 billion people or 7 billion people. What other people are doing doesn't concern you. So that's why I want us to look at the strategy. For QA, okay. All right. So, business strategy drivers. Thank you, sir. So, drivers of your business strategy, your markets. How has your market changed? You know, as bad as we think Nigeria is, do you know that home ownership, the average age is actually coming down? I don't know why, but people are building houses faster. You know, you see some 34-year-old and says, I'm in my own house. I also think part of the reason that is happening is because a lot of people are getting sharp about building homes that are smaller and smarter. You know, I think when we were growing up, our parents built houses to show that I have arrived. Now we are building houses to, to live in. So you see people build a very nice looking 3-bedroom flat and say, that's my house, I'm in it. Whereas our parents built a 20-room to show status. So markets are changing. It's the people that came after, well, that's true anyway, especially the moneyed class. Yes, the moneyed class rent one out, and yeah, it was the Obokun lawyer class of the late 70s, early 80s. You know, they were the ones that introduced ostentatious living to Nigeria. You know, they were those guys who, I mean, I don't know how they did it. They built large houses they couldn't live in. I remember somebody in my neighborhood having 4 wives, and he used to dance in front of a musician with his 4 wives together, wearing anko, you know. So, but now markets are changing, especially in the area of demographics. Especially in the area of demographics. Yes. Mike, please. Mike, right beside you.
I just want you to break down.
So break it down.
The demographics.
Oh, good, beautiful.
For people to understand better.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
It's very, very important.
Thank you. Now, let me ask you a question. If I told you that somebody was diabetic 20 years ago, how old would you think that person was? Sir? About 60, right? Right? 60. But what if I told you now that the average age of people who are diabetic now is roughly below 50? Because we have changed what? Our diet. Our lifestyle has also become sedentary. We're not doing we're eating the same thing our parents used to eat, but we're not doing the kind of work they used to do. So people selling drugs now, anti-diabetics, are doing what now? They're targeting more people within a particular, a younger age. Okay, I used a very extreme example. I've used housing. Housing has changed. Before, people would build their homes around 55, 60. Now you're seeing 30-year-olds who want to build their own homes. Agriculture used to be for the very old people and very big farm owners. Now you are seeing small holders, small title holders who have 2 acres, 3 acres. Do you understand? Now you'll be surprised when you go to an agricultural forum and you see a lot of young people who are into agriculture. Markets have changed. Fashion used to be the big labels and all of that. Now it has changed. Beauty, skincare used to be for all the Mary Kays of this world and Marks of this world. What has happened? It has changed. Now, property. In Nigeria, about 20 years ago, 2001, you could count the number of property development companies that we had in Nigeria. Now, how many property development companies do you have? We have more of indigenous who can cater property development companies, who can cater to. Well, they are property development companies, just we don't know the source of their funds and what they are developing. But at least they are registered with the, you know, for long-term anything. Investment. Yeah, yes. With the mass market, you know, everything you're doing in business is a pyramid. All of us cannot cater to the top of the pyramid. All of us cannot. What all of us can do is have a niche or have a leg in 1 or 2 quadrants. Let me give you an example in property. Depending on your strategy, people make money from the bush and then use it to develop high-end estates in the town and then sell that and use to acquire more bush. what I mean by bush, let me tell you what I'm talking about. So, and I'm telling you a real life example of what I am doing. I just registered a property development company. I don't want to advertise it before I am charged for illegal advertising. I have to pay a few millions. Now, so I'm buying up property along Monier axis, land, basically. I have chosen that axis because it is close to the new railway hub. It is close to the dry port coming up. And I'm betting on that area being able to pour some growth and development. Now, my goal is to hold that place for another 5 years. When that place grows, I then sell that property. I'll then come back to Jericho, Onireke, Ikolaba, and buy an old house. Iyagoku, buy myself an old house that is sitting on like 3,000, 4,000 square meters, right? And then break that down and do 3 bedroom, flats that I can sell at a premium. So when I sell that at a premium, I'm catering to your HNI people, your band one.
I want to challenge some conventions that we're looking at. Maybe because the architect is here, we're focused on him. But let's take a wider audience. My job is to be the catalyst.
Yes, sir.
Let's take a wider audience. We're talking very specifically right now about what the architect can do. But is there any way we could repackage this that will allow anybody in any business?
Any industry.
Yeah, because my biggest fear now is people who are listening to us who are teachers or own schools, you know what I mean? Or maybe, what else do people do? I mean, sorry? I don't mean that badly. I'm just saying, I live a very narrow life. So
Okay.
Yeah, I said it. I said whatever we are doing in any field, we have to look at that area. Whatever we are doing, give it a business approach. I said it when I came out the other time. Whether you're a school teacher, you are a doctor, especially the doctors. The doctors don't look at their profession as a business. Understand? I said it.
That's why they're called professionals.
Yes, but in this age, they are no longer professional because there are a lot of competition, a lot of things competing against them.
Okay.
Not only in their field, but a lot of things, technology is competing against them. So I say that. So we have to look at it from that angle as a business, give it a business approach. So
okay, my concern is the fact that, and I'm going to be frank with you, while you are trying to pivot, which is what we're doing, people still need to survive. I don't know if you get my point. Okay, he's an architect. He works at the moment with top earners to do his job. We're asking him to consider going down to a lower market. You know what I mean?
Yes.
He's going to need time. He's going to need to re-strategize. But in the meantime, he still has to eat, pay his children's school fees, do his, you know what I mean?
That's the cash flow.
The
cash flow.
So
Don't worry, we'll get there.
Is there a way we can, do you have that? Can we balance that out?
I will.
Yeah, because my concern is the great ideas. I run a place like this. I want to change my business strategy to B2B. All right, but it's going to take time to build that relationship with the with the bees. All I have in my current whatever are my C's. So I have to continue to look after my C's while I make the transition to the period of running.